Welcome, Walnut. I'm Lara, but you can call me Laz, your host for Walnut Wednesday. This is your reminder to be brave, be yourself, and know that you can make the world a better place just by what you decide today. Here, I'm going to share my weekly walnuttings with you on a Wednesday. Hi, Walnut. Happy Walnut Wednesday. Welcome back to the podcast. And we are here at episode 165 with the beautiful, with the sexy, with the delicious return guest, Kate Bromley.
Hello, I'm back again.
Welcome back. So, Walnut, if you're new here, Kate is my best friend in the whole world, and we chat. It started every 10 episodes and now it's every 10-ish episodes. And basically these interviews are like how Kate and I literally talk, right?
Yeah.
So Walnut, you're basically a fly on the wall to our conversations, and we talk about things that are just going on for us. So this week, Walnut, Kate and I would love to bring to you a conversation, again, something we talk about a lot of the time, on boundaries. But at the moment, both Kate and I have sort of gone through experiences where it's not necessarily about our boundaries being pushed, but it's a projection, and Kate, you can elaborate more, of another person's boundaries who hasn't done the work onto us, and then that feeling of in the moment and how to respond to that and what to do. And so yeah, I wanted to sort of bring you my experience and share how I sort of felt. And I'm sure Kate's got some examples as well, Walnut, but that's where we kind of wanted to go today as the last episode of the year, because you can nail your boundaries and you can nail all the things for yourself, and that's amazing. But we do live in a world where there are external other people all around us all the time, right? So, Kate, before I crack into it, can you introduce yourself if there is a Walnut here who actually hasn't met you before? Sorry, I didn't realize I missed that part.
No, not at all. Yeah. So yes, as Lara said, we are best friends, and I live in London, and I am a freelance film producer and director sometimes. And yeah, I mean, the conversations, I've been such a cheerleader for Walnut Wednesday, and I've been there at its complete like inception and everything and seen it. And like so many of these conversations are exactly like our real, like I think what happened is something happened in my life and I voice noted about it and literally was like, maybe we should talk about it on the podcast. And that's often how our conversation topics come out of, like you say, real things that we've discussed. Usually like this one, I'd say we get to a point where we process enough where we can be like normal chat. Our voice notes are much more chaotic usually, and a lot more like right at the emotional like peak of it all, sometimes working it all out as I speak. I use my voice to kind of process. So this is such a nice outlet to sort of reflect and maybe shed light on something that other people have come up against or haven't been able to identify, because a lot of the time the reason we identify these little milestones is because we talk to each other about them.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like once we get on camera where we're looking at each other, it like literally is like we're in our own little virtual room. And Walnut, I've listened back to some of our episodes, and it really is like you can sit down on the couch, grab a glass of wine, and it'll be like you're hearing us sort of yap, which is I love about these ones. So
I'm always happy to be here, and sometimes I do have a glass of wine while we're doing the podcast, so not today, unfortunately.
Wine optional, Walnut, if you want to join in. But so back on the boundaries thing, Walnut. So I guess, Kate, shall I start with my experience? I'm not sure if I want to share it or not, but no, I will. I'll share. Walnut. So on the weekend, I had this weird moment where I had booked a floaty tank and I had booked a massage afterwards, and I just wanted to have just goddess time, and I had this like vision in my brain of how everything would be and this expectation, right? And basically my needs for what I expected were not met. The floaty tank was its own experience, but the massage, I was kind of waiting to get called into the massage room, and I was envisioning like being called into this like spa environment that smelled of scented candles and warm, freshly washed towels. And you know how when you walk into a spa and the room's like a little bit too hot, but it's really nice. Like I was mixing what I've had in the past versus with what I really craved and wanted. And this man came out and was like, "Hi, Lara, I'll be doing your massage today." And I was like, oh, because I just wasn't prepared for that. Yeah, so that was an odd experience in itself. And Walnut, there was nothing wrong, nothing bad happened. It was just I didn't even think about it. I wasn't prepared. Like in the booking form, I think it did have his name on it and stuff, and I didn't even register. So story time, sit down and buckle up. So I walk into this room and it feels more like a sports like rehabilitation sort of room. Like it didn't have the candles. It wasn't necessarily warm. It was quite like stale and officey and clinical. It was a very clinical environment. And even to the point where Walnut, when I was like lying on the bed, with your face in like the donut thing, even the blanket smelled like your boyfriend had done the washing. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a smell. There's a particular smell. Do you know what I mean, Kate? Do you know that smell? Or am I just me? It was like that, Walnut. So I was already just really uncomfortable, and he sat me down and he, said like, I'm going to do this and you are the boss. You let me know if this is uncomfortable, too much pressure, too hot, too cold, blah, blah, blah. So he was really great at his job. It wasn't the job that I wanted though. So I was just immensely discomforted the entire time. It was very stressful for me. But basically so I'm on this table, my flesh, the flesh of my back is showing to this man who I wasn't prepared to show my skin to. And I just didn't feel right. And when he was sort of like massaging my lower back, there was this point, right, Walnut, where I realized I couldn't use my voice to express that I didn't like it. And Kate and I talked sort of offline a little bit about this, where I just got to this point where I was like, oh, I may as well just keep going because I'm halfway through now. I haven't said no. I couldn't say no at the beginning, even though I didn't want to be there, which was really interesting. As someone who's nailed their boundaries, the words didn't come out of my mouth, and I sat in this like hot, flushed feeling of awkwardness, and I wouldn't say anxious, but it was this complete discomfort, like my body was not regulated correctly. And there was this point where I was like, okay, that I don't like it on that like part of my lower back part of my body. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. And I'm going in my head and the voice isn't working. And I built myself up into this like mini panic attack. And then he moved to the other side of the bit that I didn't like. And I sort of said, hey, and then he moved his hands right away. Like I say, he did nothing wrong. There was nothing like unprofessional about him at all. And I said, hey, I'm really uncomfortable. I don't like that. And he said, no problem. We'll just finish up on your lower back or upper back or something like, or shoulders, or I can't remember what he said. And I said, okay, thank you. And I was in my head thinking, I'd rather want you to just stop it all, but that's okay. Never mind. We'll keep pushing through this last bit. But even that little moment, Walnut, took me, I would say, about 40 minutes into the whole thing for me to get to a place that was just the slightest bit even more discomforting to be able to say that. And that's what I just found really interesting. I feel like I've been talking a little while. Kate, I would like your input on the situation.
Well, I think I remember hearing the voice note about it and thinking to myself, and I think you brought it up as well, was, did it even occur to you that you could be like, oh, actually, this isn't what I expected? Or did that only occur to you maybe later, of being like, why did my brain say, this sucks, it's not what I wanted, but there was no, like you say, there was nothing extreme, like no unprofessionalism, nothing like seedy or,
Mm.
weird or like anything like that. It just wasn't the experience that you'd kind of mentally prepared for, expected, or desired, right?
Mm.
So did it ever even occur to you during the time of being like, were you thinking, how can I get out of this? Or were you thinking, I can't get out of this, to suck it up? Or were you just thinking, just suck it up, because it didn't even cross your mind to leave or to be like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
tell me that.
it didn't cross my mind that I could just leave. I wanted to. I was like, I want to go, but it like, it never occurred to me to be like, oh, actually, this isn't what I expected. Thank you. It's not about you. It's me. Bye.
Yeah.
I didn't even think to do that.
But I think that's it's incredibly human, isn't it? And
Mm,
like, even if you've not really, like, this is probably, I think you said one of the first times you've experienced something like that. Is that right?
yeah, kind of. And I think one thing that I wanted to say as well is that it was more about like the recovering people pleaser stuff where I didn't want to upset the guy,
Yeah.
like I didn't want to be like, oh, because you are how you are, I don't want your service. You know what I mean? Like I was worried about offending them, but the punishment, I suppose, of that was me sitting in total discomfort for almost an hour.
Yeah. And I think that's in terms of the boundaries thing, that's about something internal. It's
Yeah.
not even that much about the other person, right? We're making all these assumptions or projections, or it's kind of harping back to historical stuff of be polite, and they did nothing wrong, so you have no reason to ruin their day, or over correcting, thinking if you did say no thank you, that they might get offended, and this, that, and the other, and all these scenarios that were playing out, rather than just being like, what do I feel in the moment, and how could I voice that in a really like polite way? And the thing is, knowing that that could still be taken the wrong way, there's not a lot you can do about it.
Mm.
But it didn't even occur to you. It doesn't occur to me either. Like you say, it took you 40 minutes to even say anything about the lower back, and then he was super good straight away, and there's a proof there, right? There's a testing the using the voice, and it was completely fine. He completely understood straight away. And maybe that's like a little lesson of being like, you got to test that out. But also, it's about being in tune with our feelings, right? So I feel like there was a lot, it happens a lot. I think there's just a lot of denial about the reasonableness of what we're feeling, right? Is how, well, I don't have a good enough reason, or I spent the money on this, or whatever it is, and being like, wait a second, what's a good enough reason? Like, why aren't your feelings of discomfort enough of a reason? Saying, hey, this isn't what I paid for, you're a piece of shit, I want to leave. Rude. That is rude. But you
Yeah.
wouldn't do that, right? You wouldn't do that. But saying, hey, look, you know what? I signed up for this and I was really excited, but unfortunately I'm not feeling very well today. Like telling a little white lie or whatever, I'm being like, changing your mind, if that made it easier to make a little white lie, would be fine. But it doesn't necessarily occur to us or to people. I don't know. It's just really interesting. I think, you know, it's a very human thing. You hear stories all the time about people getting into dangerous situations often, by denying their little inklings about things, or like saying, don't be rude, don't overreact, this, that, and the other. And it can serve us wrong, both men and women,
Yeah.
can serve us wrong. And this by no means was dangerous, but it was just like, so why not, why stick it out anyway? So yeah, I found that story really fascinating, and it was probably a new thing that you've discovered. Like, you've worked on lots of boundaries, but like, what happens in those kinds of scenarios where maybe there's completely like innocent third party who doesn't know you, who doesn't need to give you the benefit of the doubt. With friends, with families, you can have a chat, you can have a conversation, you might even have a little fight, a little cry, whatever, and you'll be fine. But
Yeah.
strangers, it's really hard, because you're
Yeah.
like, they don't necessarily understand where I'm coming from, or I don't necessarily feel safe to put my boundaries up because I don't know how they'll react. Like,
Yeah.
it was probably a bit of a, they say the fight or flight thing is probably a bit more of a freeze moment. And
I
I've
think
done that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was absolutely a freeze, and also just there was added emotion onto it. Like I said, I felt physically hot because
Yeah.
you're in a total vulnerable situation. I'm like half
Yeah.
nude on a table. Well, you know, like
Yeah.
it's, and someone is physically touching me, and like as an energy healer as well, that's a whole different, you know.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it was a really interesting thing, and it was definitely a freeze. And that feeling of, I know, Walnut, I talk all the time about how I like to practice my voice, and I'm not great, and do I hide behind that sometimes? Maybe, but I'm not the great at articulating what I want to say and stuff. But I've never felt a full like blockage, like not being able to speak, like
Mhm.
not necessarily out of fear, but just out of, maybe it was a bit of fear, maybe a bit of irrational
Or
anxiety,
just
I don't
out of your
know. But
depth, maybe out of complete like, oh shit, I don't know what to do in this situation. Like not in a because
yeah.
I'm so terrified, or like what can make you panicky sometimes is being like, oh, I don't know how to extract myself from this in a way that will feel okay. So my only other option is to quietly not feel okay. And then that's just not okay, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh my gosh. And
Um,
that's the moment that I had that in the floaty tank, like minutes beforehand. I had turned the light off so I could have a snooze. And then because I've got these giant like nails on at the moment, I couldn't turn, I had my snooze, and then it got too dark and I got a little bit like claustrophobical. So I wanted to turn the little like sparkly light back on, and I couldn't. And the water is like, my hands, Walnut, they're like, I don't know, how long is this, Kate? Maybe 15 centimeters deep. Like it's
yeah.
not, it's like under the knee deep, and but you're floating. And so I was trying to push this button like with like the crooks of my like fingers and knuckles, and I couldn't. I was sort of like squelching around in this floating tank, almost like panicking, like I'm drowning or something, because I couldn't turn. It was making me more claustrophobic. In the end, I like lifted the lid up, but then it turned the big light. There was a lot going on that day. There was a lot of emotions and a lot of situations where I was like, I can't get this to work, like, and squelching around, panicking inside my body. And then in the end, I just lay there in the dark, like I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
I
Similarly
think
to the table.
No, I think that's it. Is maybe the lesson is that you can't be prepared for everything, right? So when you emotionally prepare about talking to someone about a boundary or this, that, and the other, you can kind of have a plan, you know what to say. But what if something kind of catches you unawares, right? And that
Mm.
actually leads well into how I've experienced it, which is sometimes being like, oh, I didn't anticipate this, therefore I have no plan. And you know, having a plan or knowing how to articulate yourself, knowing how to even recognize what your own thoughts and feelings mean in a moment that's maybe unusual, like, right, you haven't got to, oh, it's this again, it's sort of one of a kind, is that, and is maybe learning how to give yourself permission in those moments of being like, right, take a second, take a deep breath, what do you need, you know? And we've talked about this, I think travel's a good one, particularly if you're on your own, or someone, if you get lost or whatever, and you just be like, right, I'm going to sit on this bench, I know where I am, I'm on the bench, sit down, take a second, take a deep breath, and then make a plan. Whereas like, and I think that's just a normal thing, and then it's kind of like, let's, now what do we do? And I think the now what do we do means also unlearning some of this bullshit about being overly polite or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
How many people out there have gone to the hairdressers and said, I only want like 2 inches taken off, and they cut like 4, and you're sitting there with your freaking heart beating out your chest, try not to cry, and they're like, so what do you think? You're like, great.
You're like,
It's
I
like,
hate it. I
it's all
fucking hate
great.
it.
I think the thing is, like, if you use that almost as the analogy, is as soon as they've made that chop, it's like, well, the damage is done now, so I just have to suck it up, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, I know that they can't grow it back for you, but what would happen if you said, look, actually, I feel like you cut off more than we agreed to, and actually I'm not thrilled about it. I'm not thrilled. And not kicking off, not saying you're the worst hairdresser in the world, but truthfully and as respectfully as needed, don't just suck it up and be like, that's how I feel, which could have been in your scenario like, you know what, you've done a great job, it's not about you. I'm just feeling a bit off, which is completely vague and innocuous. Like you can use that for anything. Do you know what? If you don't mind, I'm actually going to duck out of this early. Thanks very much. And what are they going to do? Hold you down and make you have the massage? If they do, then you have a real problem. Like, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I
So
I
yeah,
thought about that where it was like, you know, playing the story back in my brain of like things that I could have done, you know, in the shower when you have the conversations that you never had.
absolutely. Yeah.
And at the very beginning, even a comment like, "Oh, I didn't expect you to be male." Even just a fleeting like that, how much that could have potentially changed the trajectory of the situation, because that would have meant
Yeah.
that potentially the chat that we had at the beginning where he said, you know, you're the boss of the table, you're blah 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 blah, he might have been a bit more delicate about how he spoke. Do you
And
know what I mean? Like that.
also, it's then out of your brain and into the universe, and it's
Yeah.
less of a burden on yourself too. Who knows? He might have gone, "Hey, look, you know, if that's a problem, I could check if there's another colleague or something."
Yeah.
Who
Or do you want
knows?
to rebook or like,
Or yeah, and again, it's frustrating, but like we say, I had a situation which took me, you know, days to reflect on. And my sister I chatted to, and you know, one of the first things she said was, "Hey, look, you know, it's a lesson that you can learn from."
yeah,
And I mean, she was totally right. And at the time I was kind of like, yeah, I know. You know what I mean?
shut
Because
up.
sometimes I'm like, when am I gonna be done learning the fucking lessons? And when can I just get it right straight away?
Yeah.
But she's completely right in the sense of every experience like this, you can take from it what you need to. So we can either be, I can never massage again, or I'm so pissed off at myself because I couldn't speak. Or it could be like, right, well, I know what that felt like this time, and I'm gonna, you know, think about ways that I can voice anything in a nice healthy way earlier on. And it's another challenge, right? Like we say, the more work you do, the more you kind of realize, annoyingly, work there is to be done.
Mm,
Because like we say, it's a big fucking wild like world out there, and you can come up against it in so many ways. Mine, without going into too many details, was a work situation, and it caught me off guard because I got along with that person really, really well, and kind of didn't realize till later, and things got a bit tense, was that person didn't have any boundaries with their, you know, client, their higher up, the person they answered to.
mm,
And that stress because of it was sort of going down the line and mostly at me. Now I have really good boundaries. And I've worked on that a lot in the workplace. It can be really difficult no matter what field you're in. You know, people being like, well, we're all working late. It's really hard to leave on time then, even though you're completely well within your rights to. It's really hard to. Or people are stressed out about something and you're just kind of like, no one's dying, like, you know, because you've learned not to take the stress home with you or whatever. It can be really scary because it's kind of like, well, what am I giving up here? Am I damaging my reputation at work, or am I
yeah.
losing my fucking dignity that I worked really hard to protect? And yeah, so I got kind of caught off guard, and I dug my heels in. But because I was caught off guard, I probably did the opposite of what you did, is that I couldn't suck up some of the stuff that I thought was completely like ridiculous. Like literally, I was like, I can't solve a problem that doesn't exist. This just sounds like your panic.
Yeah. Sounds like a
Like
you
I don't know what
problem.
to do. Exactly. I mean, for lack of a better term, thankfully I didn't say that, but it was kind of like, this is not a real problem.
Yeah.
And therefore, I'm not going to run around like a headless chicken like you are, freaking out. So I kind of did the equivalent of what we've spoken about, which is I went out, I spoke to a friend that was a kind of safe third party, calm me down, go back in with a brave face. But it kind of was just like a repeat process where I was like, then getting, you know, smacked in the face by this next big thing. And it was just like, what is going on? It was really, really tough, and it knocked my confidence. And after reflecting, I was like, that's what it was. They've got no boundaries. all their stress was flying downhill. And what they hit was this boulder of a woman who was like, do you know what? I can see this objectively now. And it was like, everything was going fine. If it hadn't, granted, things can go wrong. That's literally my job. I always, we will solve the problem.
Yeah.
But I couldn't solve these made up problems. And so it was just kind of like, that was the clash, which was like, it seems all good to me. I mean, I'm more than happy to help you, but I don't know where the problem is. And anyway, so, you know, the time has passed, and like annoyingly, bless my sister, she was bloody right. The lesson has been learned. And unfortunately, it's kind of that classic thing of trying to be like two things. One, try and always expect a little bit of a curveball, like your thing and my thing. Both of them are sort of curveballs, internally, externally, whatever. And two, give yourself a break when you don't necessarily get it completely right. Give yourself a break and just try and do better next time. You know?
Yeah, I feel that, and I think in both our situations, albeit different ends of the boundary stick a little bit, they both sort of came down to present moment, and that like in a woo-woo sense, that grounding and being like, what do I actually need, and how can I zoom out from where I am right now to kind of get a picture of who I am in this, and what I can do and what I can't, you know, like what can I control. So I'd actually love to hear more about what you have to think, Kate, on other people's boundaries, and sort of in your situation, was there anything particular that you did? Because I simultaneously have got I'm going through sort of a situation, actually not so, it's all the time really, where now that I have noticed that I am quote unquote good at boundaries, I notice how much there is a lack in other people. And it's not to say that I feel like I'm superior to everyone else. Me and my friend Briar Patch always laugh that we're superior. It's like a funny joke, so that made me laugh. But it's more of like if you were more aware of that, like imagine how different things could be. But also, I still sometimes feel like I get sucked back to behaviors that I don't want to be behaving in, because I am either outnumbered in a situation, not like being ganged up on, but it's like lots of people that don't have the boundary are behaving to cater to someone else's lack of boundary. It's hard to say. It's hard to express what I'm trying to sort of feel, but like, I'd love to know what you you mentioned that you spoke to the friend and had a chat with Sissy and stuff. But in that heat of the moment, there's really no way to sort of get out of it apart from ride it out and then go and not beat yourself up after, right? That's sort of what you were already alluding to. I just feel like there's more to the feeling of other people not having them and projecting them, and then you feeling like, you as in me, feeling like I feel morally and all my values and all these things in my body that are like being crossed. It doesn't make me feel good. And I suppose that's a good piece of data and information for myself and my growth to know where I draw the line for things. But it's hard when you're in them and you can't, there's nothing, I feel like sometimes quite helpless. Like there's nothing else I can really do apart from sit in the discomfort, like the massage table, with people around me, because they haven't said no.
Well, it's like, let's use a hypothetical. And honestly, this hypothetical could apply to literally everyone, I would say. But I'd say an example of that is, say, like, let's say your best friend or a really good friend that you spend a lot of time with gets a partner that you inherently dislike. It's not that they're necessarily a terrible, abusive person, but maybe they, have racist views, or maybe they skimp out on the taxes, or maybe they deny climate change, or just something that maybe, like, for you morally, or like maybe they're just always rude to wait stuff. You know what I mean? Like something where you're just like, I don't want to be associated with that person. It makes me feel like I'm sort of jeopardizing my moral values. But they now come with this person who does mean everything to me, right? And
Mm.
they don't have an issue with it, or they don't speak about the boundaries, you know, whatever it is. For me, I can imagine if one of my friends had a partner and they were incredibly vocal about, being anti-feminist and women rah rah rah, because that's something I like to talk about a lot and something that I read a lot about, and I'm also a woman, obviously. I feel like I couldn't not be sucked into that nonsense, or I would feel like I was sort of betraying the cause or myself by then letting them talk shit and me not saying anything. And so I'd be in this really weird situation where it would be like, what? Right. So I either going to have constant combative conversations, which maybe my friend wouldn't want or no one would want,
Mm.
or I have to shut up and not say my views to keep the peace,
Yeah.
which makes me feel gross about me as a human. Right.
Yeah.
What the fuck do you do? What
Yeah.
the fuck do you do in those situations? And I think a lot of people have come up against that. And a lot of people would be like, at a certain point, you'd have to say to that person that you love, you know, you're on your path, you're making your choice, but like I can't be around them. So either you can decide you can have a relationship with me and we compartmentalize that person. They don't come to things, or I can do it in small doses in group parties or whatever. You come up with your compromise, and
Compromise the
then
plan. Mm.
they take or leave it, right? And if they're like, no, 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 in order for you to be in my life, you have to plaster a smile, pretend it's all fine, otherwise you're not my friend. That's when some really hard things happen, right? Which
Yeah.
is, that's when you have to evaluate whether the person that you love so dearly, and I'm using friend because friends are, objectively easier to cut out. Family is just a whole other difficult thing. Like, who knows? That's again really murky. But that's when you have to decide whether being around them is making you not a person that you want to be. Um, and yeah, and I mean, those I think that's what you were touching on when you say it
Yeah.
goes wider. And I think that's when it's like incredibly, incredibly difficult. And that's where I'd be like talking to friends, but probably seeking out something higher, like actual therapy about working out what to do is like, you know, that, yeah, like that's the kind of the next step. But I think those I call them extreme examples. They're not
Yeah.
extreme. How many people around the Christmas table are going, oh God, gotta have the racist uncle round, or the person who's homophobic in the family, and whatever, or people are like, well, they're family, they're your family, and it's like, what?
So
So yeah. So
they're not a good person that I like. They're not someone.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
weird.
it's like, if you, I think it's worth trying as many sort of compromises, conversations, having a conversation saying, hey, we really, even if with that, say within that first scenario, saying to the partner, like, hey, we have really opposing views on it. I respect everyone's opinion, but it's quite antagonistic, or like I find it really difficult to hear you say those things without me wanting to, oppose that, or I don't want to get into discussions or arguments or whatever. Could we just agree not to talk about the subject? Like that kind of thing of out of sight, out of mind.
Mm.
And I think giving people opportunities to come to the table is always good, because it makes, first of all, why not? Like it seems like a fair benefit of the doubt thing to do. Second, it can make it clear who's the person being more reasonable, right? And that kind of thing. Nothing's twisted, everything's just out there. It's not talking behind their back. It's just like saying, that's how I feel. And they can then you've at least got that. It's sort of like with work for me, mine is whatever's said, put it in frickin' writing. Have your record, have your receipts,
Yeah.
um we talk about people, we vent to friends, we talk behind people's back, but ultimately those hard conversations done in a really like measured, safe way with other people around if you need it, or with like freaking notes if you need them, whatever. That's the first step, I think. And I say that knowing that I've done quite a few of those and they've turned out in various different ways. But no matter how they've turned out, I've always felt better for it because honesty actually feels really good.
Well,
It
that's the
feels
walnutting, isn't it? That's that brave step where you put the ball back in their court, and again, it's away from you, out of your head, and you've expressed, you feel expressed. You're not stuck. You're not blocked. You're not, you've said what you need to say, and it's like that relief, which is easier said than done to have those conversations for sure.
absolutely.
So yeah.
And I think so many people use boundaries as a reason to cut people out or to, write people off. And I think that's where it goes too far because it's just like, look, some people don't change or won't listen, but we're all capable of it. It's not easy, but we're all capable of it. So if you gave everyone that benefit of the doubt, maybe the person that you give the benefit of the doubt to is really abrasive because they expect everyone to cut them off because everyone always has. And by not doing that, by changing that pattern, maybe you give them an opportunity to better themselves as well. It sounds kind of, that's a little bit holier than thou, like how great are we? But also it's kind of like, wouldn't I would want that too. I constantly worry that I'm offending people. I say a lot of shit before I think it through. And I often will reflect and send a message whether or not I know that they've been offended or not, just to like clear my own conscience and make sure that they understand that I've reflected or this, that, and the other. But if I hadn't realized and they don't tell me and then they quietly never speak to me again, well, I'm never going to learn, am I? We can, or what a shame that would be. I've lost the opportunity to sort of grow.
And it's that we've talked about this on the other boundaries episode, Kate, where it's not the ignorance is bliss kind of thing, but it's actually by you having the courageous, brave, walnutty conversation, it's actually telling the people that you care about how you want to be treated. You're letting them know, I don't like that, so can you behave in this way to make me feel comfortable? Like, but it's like putting yourself first, I guess.
I think it's also saying I care about you enough to let you know. Yeah, I care about you enough that I'd like to keep you in my life and I'd like to come up with situations or solutions as to how that can work better in the future. And then it's again, obviously it's they're down to do their part too, but if you don't give people the opportunity, now with workplace things and certain stuff like toxic bosses and stuff, sometimes you got to cut and run, right? Friendships and family, things where deep emotions like love are involved, it's different. But so some things, by all means, don't die on that hill, get yourself out. That's sometimes the way it is. You don't have to worry, like in the hair example, you don't have to sit them down and be like, look, I think you're a great person, but you cut my hair way too short. Like sometimes that's just about airing it and not being over the top about it. But I think that's the challenge with boundaries, is ultimately you've got a choice in a situation, which is, are you going to guard your boundaries to the point where you're like, anyone that comes near them is out, they're out, no fucking second chance, no conversation, they're gone? Or is having boundaries a framework you can use to improve relationships and to give people the chance to respect them and maybe consider their own? Maybe they consider, well, actually, me being able to express my beliefs about XYZ thing is more important than what you being comfortable. And you go, great, now I know your boundary. I know that my comfort level is much lower on your list of priorities. Good. I don't feel bad about not being around you then. You will understand that if you can't consider me and hear that I'm uncomfortable, sometimes people will have unreasonable boundaries and you'll be like, cool, I can't do that. Or they can't do that. No hard feelings. See ya.
Yeah, just opens the door to more more openness, more like constructive literal conversations between people that flow.
And I think asking for what you want, what you need, like you're not always going to get it. There might be a compromise or there might be an impasse and people go their separate ways. But just knowing how to ask is really important. And that goes all the way back to your example, which is being like, a lot of the time, we don't even know. We don't even know we need to ask these things. We just feel our body's telling us, our physical, like reactions, like clenched fists, we're sweating, or just feeling a sense of unease or panic or fucking blind rage or whatever it is. That's all telling you. And that's where the deep breath and listening is going, right. Okay. Maybe I just got triggered. Maybe it's not to do with them. Or, wow, I can see they are doing this and that's what this is. Or, okay, I've thought about it. I'm going to just opt out of this early. Whatever it is. It's like, that's the first step, I suppose, is like listening to ourselves, and then we can hopefully get the opportunity to be heard by whatever other party it is.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for elaborating on that.
Set me off.
But even as you were speaking though, I was like making up stories in my brain, like imagining like particular conversations, and I was getting nervous about them. But when you're feeling scarce-sighted, a walnutting is around the corner. So I mean, I wouldn't say I'm excited, but I can see the room for growth and change having these imaginary conversations. So like imagine what the real life ones are going to be like, right? Probably nothing to what I expect, but at least it's out of my head. And I also was reflecting when you were talking, I am the one in the discomfort, building the resentment, building all the stuff. The people who I'm bothered about, it sounds like lots, it's not.
Whoever.
But, or the massage or whatever, are none the wiser. They got no bloody idea. But I am the one holding all this stuff. So yeah, it's really good real-time thought
or they could be sensing something and being like, well, I don't want to say, hey, are you uncomfortable, if they're not, or whatever. Like, who knows? One other thing I would say is I've noticed as well, there are a lot of knee-jerk reactions to boundaries. Like, I've noticed it myself. I've got and emails and WhatsApps or texts and things can be really hard to convey tone, but like, so if I'm trying to put a boundary up, I'm often kind of like, all right, you don't have to say sorry 3 times. You've explained yourself. But I've got a kind of a friend who, she's very strong, very kind, very generous, will thank people for things, like, a great person, but very firm with their boundaries, which took me aback. They're kind of a newish friend, and I'd send a message and I'd get like, sorry, I'm just trying to take some time for myself, or whatever it was. Like, let's say that was it. And at first I'm kind of like, oh shit. And then I was like, oh, it's fine. Like, my inherent thing of freaking out or not conveying tone or going to the worst possible thing, which is, oh, that's really short, or whatever, is like, or that's just the language that they need to use to be like clear about themselves, and it's not about me. And so it goes both ways, as well as I actually recognize that I can be a little bit oversensitive when someone's sending probably a pretty fair, reasonable message, and I read it in a way that's more aggressive than it needs to be because of my own insecurities. So I think that's a really good thing to go out there and consider, as well, as that sometimes maybe when we brush up against other people's boundaries, let's just give a bit of grace, a bit of benefit of the doubt both ways. If someone's like, I just can't right now, maybe they're going through a lot, and that's the best way they can articulate it. And it's kind of like, this isn't about me, it's fine. Which is hard to do, but it's something that's made me kind of freak out less when I'm getting messages like that.
Funny you mentioned that. I was listening to a podcast yesterday that was recommended by a friend of mine about anxious attachment styles. And anyway, the lady was giving an example of, like, she's seeing this guy, and she was like, asked him if he wanted to meet for coffee, and his response was, oh, I've got to go shopping for work. And she immediately was like, do you hate me? Do you not want to spend time with me? Oh my God, why am I asking to hang out with him some more? He must think that I'm a stalker because I want to hang out with him, even though we've been hanging out for 2 days. And like the brain thing that you do, when actually it's not about like him, it's you making these things because of like your past experiences, and like you said, like your insecurities and things like that. So I don't know, it's really, really interesting. But I thank you for your for shining a light on your views on boundaries. It's always a pleasure, Kate. I have a really good group of friends where we're just so good at boundary chat. Like when we all try and hang out, and it's only like a couple of times a year now. But one time one of us couldn't make it, and she was like, I just can't. I'm really sorry. I would love to be there, but I can't today. And it was really and she's like, and you know what? I felt so safe. We were discussing it the massage weekend where I was. And she was like, you know what? I actually just felt completely, totally safe to just say, I can't. And I knew that you would get it. And it just does go both ways of how you're also receiving someone else's. And if it's with that grace, or rather than going, why? What's wrong? What do you need? What, like just going, okay, I know you'll come when I'm ready, when you're ready. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I think that makes me feel really good if a friend says that to me, because then I know I've created such a safe and honest environment for them, and that it works both ways. And I never have to worry too much either. And that's a lovely little moment, I think. So well done. That's
thank
great.
you. It was very, very special. But before we wrap up, Kate, and knowing that it's sort of, this is the last episode, I'm not one for New Year's resolutions, Walnut. I'm just going to put it on the table. I like strong coffee and just getting on with things. But Kate, I would love if you have like a Happy New Year, anything to share on boundaries, sort of anything else you feel like you haven't gotten off your beautiful, voluptuous chest.
Oh, thank you. Two things, I guess. One would be on boundaries is, with New Year's resolution things, often it's like, what am I going to do or what am I going to achieve? And I think the thing that we've come back to and established so much with boundaries is like, it's never done. The work's never done. There's always going to be a curveball. There's always a new relationship. And if you're done, that means you're no longer open to change or exceptions or whatever. So like, don't worry about it. Like, I'm super hard on myself. I think you are as well. But like, you'll always have different scenarios, different challenges, and you might do different things depending on the stage of life you're at and that kind of thing. So I would say don't feel bad if you're still learning lessons, because it's just the way life is. Your work's never done. And then secondly, in the new year, or when you're listening to this, I directed a short film, such a plug, but I directed a short documentary. We managed to raise enough money to get us to Poland to film in Auschwitz, which was incredibly emotional, exhausting, cold, like all the things, but really rewarding. And we're still raising money to get this through post-production, to have the money to put it into film festivals, and eventually to put on some screenings where we can thank our wonderful donors, hopefully, have a call with people, or, put their name on the credits, or if they're in the area where we do screenings, like have a drink on us and come watch the film. Could be international. Me and Michelle, the woman who's featured in it, will both be in New Zealand next year. Timing TBC, but yes, we'll be over, and hopefully we'll do a screening in New Zealand. So I really just like, any donation, big or small, really, really helps. And Lara's crying because I'm going to be seeing her next year.
Well, that she just surprised me that she's going to be here next year, and now I'm crying. Very nice.
I've been looking ahead at next year and dates and things, and it's a big year in my family as well for milestones. And I haven't been back since the beginning of 2020, because obviously COVID. And so April, May, that kind of time, 2023. The film needs to be done by the end of February. So we'll put the link, hopefully share that around a bit more. But please, if you can, even if it's $10, like, honestly, it helps. And we really appreciate all the support so far. And like, it's a really powerful story, and I feel very privileged to be able to tell it. So that's my little plug at the end, and something that not everyone gets to do: contribute to a film, get your name on some credits, and I'm sure we'll do a in-person podcast when I'm back as well, which will be really special.
Oh my God, I'm just dying. That's amazing. Yes, Walnut will definitely put it in the show notes. We can even pop the trailer on just so you can watch the trailer of the film that Kate's directing after this, before the ending Walnut credits. We'll chuck that up. So stick around for the last couple of minutes of this episode. And it's all through the Walnut Tree as well. We've kind of posted it. I haven't recently, but I will. It's around and it's all over Kate's page. So just make sure you're following Kate at Miss Kate Bromley on Instagram and just Kate Bromley on the Facebooks. It's everywhere, Walnut Tree, all the places. On that, Kate, thank you for being here for another episode of Walnut Wednesday 165. Woo woo! Happy New Year!
I know, it's amazing. 2022 coming to an end.
I know. So, Walnut, have a real think about sort of, I think with New Year's resolutions and stuff as well, people think that it's like, I really don't like the statement, but new year, new me. It's like, you're not new. You're the person you've always been, but what do you want to take away and what do you want to sort of move on from, I think is probably the key for this sort of time of year, Walnut. So I just encourage you to sort of think about, have a little reflect, put some time aside to reflect on yourself and your boundaries and other people's boundaries and how you've behaved and what do you want to expand and build on and what are you ready to go, okay, I forgive myself and I'm not going to be hard on myself, but next time I'm going to do something different. I think that's probably, do you have anything to add on that, Kate?
All I would say is, like you say, is what do you want? That's what it is. It's like not about who do you want to be, necessarily, but what do you want? Anything you've been putting off, start thinking about making it happen. Just that's my advice is, we've talked about lots of things in that kind of vein, but how do you get to what you want? You're probably okay as you are, just make sure that you're creating a life that brings out the best of you.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kate, for being here. And thank you for your time, Walnut. And if you're driving at this time of year, there are a lot of nut freaks all over the road. So please just be safe, eat all the food, love yourself. You're beautiful, you're sexy, you're delicious. And so are you, Kate. Happy New Year and happy Walnut Wednesday. And I will talk to you next year. Bye.
I have Austrian citizenship by way of my grandfather because Austria passed a law in 2020 that stated any Holocaust victims or descendants of Holocaust victims can apply for Austrian citizenship as a way to welcome them back home. Do you know how difficult it was for me to find information? How do you prove that you're Jewish? What documentation do I have? Thankfully, my grandfather registered himself many years ago in Israel as Austrian. So there was that. But then how do I prove that relationship? He changed his name. He didn't want to have any association with what had happened. There's so much missing. There's so much that has happened in my family's history that hasn't been documented. And I would love to be able to provide some sort of answer. The ultimate goal of this project and this journey is to document my trip to where it all happened, where the genocide of my family, of that side of my family, happened in Auschwitz. And I really would like to highlight that this still affects generations today. It affects generations of people who don't look like what society thinks Jewish people should look like. I hope to have a spiritual experience and to kind of say, sorry it took me this long, but I got here. And I hope that I'm able to share it. Hope that it helps somebody, even if it's just me.